Earlier this week, YouTube announced some huge changes in how kids' content is dealt with on the platform. Since then, as you can imagine, we've been inundated with questions. What does it mean? What does it mean for the future of kids' content, for the future of content with kids in? And obviously, most specifically for you guys watching this channel, what does it mean for the future of this channel? In this video, I'm going to attempt to break down the announcement and answer those questions. Hello folks, and welcome to something very different on today's vlog. As you can see, it's not a normal vlog. This is becoming something of a tradition, actually. Whenever YouTube announces something major, I do a sit-down video in front of my toys, try and explain it to you, and hopefully go some way to calming everybody down. That's the plan. If you are new to the channel, as you try and figure out what's going on with all this, and you enjoy the video, please consider subscribing to the channel, turning notifications on, that kind of thing. 95% of our videos are family vlogs, which we'll get to. But like I say, this stuff does come up every now and again. And I like to think, as a full-time YouTuber myself, my ear is to the ground, and I tend to get a good grasp on these things, and hopefully I've got a good grasp on this one. But let's start things off with a little explanation of what's happened, especially for those of you who aren't as deep into all of this as obviously I am as a creator, and find out what's actually happened. So if you follow any kind of tech content, you'll have seen all sorts of headlines like this one. So this one is from The Verge. YouTubers say kids' content changes could ruin careers. Maybe. This one is from the New York Times. Google has fined $170 million for violating children's privacy on YouTube. That's what's caused all this. We'll get into that in a second. And then this one from CNET, which is YouTube plans sweeping changes to kids' videos after $170 million fine. So to cut a long story relatively short, as it says in these last two articles, Google and YouTube received a massive fine because of breaches to the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, known as COPPA. The general gist of it is by collecting personalized user data on children's content so that they can then serve personalized ads. That's data collection on children without the consent of them or their parents. That's against the rules. That has to stop. And Google's response to that and their way of stopping it is this. This was put out on all their social media, on their official blog, changes to their kids and data protection on YouTube. And on the face of it, this is all positive stuff from a legal point of view, from a parent's point of view, from a protecting children point of view. They're kind of firming up on rules that probably should have been in place in the first place. The two big changes are, firstly, they're changing how they define what children's content is. So rather than doing it based on, as it says there, from its earliest days, YouTube has been a site for people over the age of 13. It makes you log in, but obviously it doesn't check ID, and lots of people lied about their age when they registered, or use YouTube as an 8-year-old but on their parents' login, or use it without logging in at all. So although it is a site for over 13s and always is intended to be, it's obviously never been policed before. And because of that, if a kid has lied about their age when they signed up, they'll have all of the normal ad stuff, both adverts served to them and their preferences and things monitored, so that they can have the ads more personalized to them, so they're more likely to be successful adverts. It's the way Google AdSense works effectively. And the same goes for if it's a child logging in on their parents' account, the adverts will be targeted towards them. And that's the big change that has had to come in as a result of this massive fine that Google have had. So rather than basing whether or not something is content for kids on the user, on the person watching the content and how old they are, they're flipping it around, and then they're now saying there is specific content that is obviously children's content, and that's going to be treated as such. So what that means is any content that is obviously targeted at children is now going to be viewed as being watched by a child, even if the person logged in watching it is an adult according to their login, or is actually genuinely an adult. If it's content that's obviously for children, then it's kids content, and the second part of the big change is if something is kids content, they're no longer going to collect that data on that content, which has the roll-on effect of meaning they can no longer place personalized ads on content that is for children, because there's no way to personalize the content because they're not collecting the data anymore. One of the big misunderstandings of what's happened that I've seen online is that people have interpreted this as meaning that content for children will no longer have any adverts on at all, and that's not the case. Admittedly, the vast majority of adverts on YouTube are personalized, but there are some that aren't, and those ones that aren't personalized, just the generic blanket ads, those ones can still be on kids content, but it is a tiny proportion of what's out there at the moment. And it's not necessarily full on doom and gloom, because obviously advertisers, if they really want to advertise to kids, could presumably still get around it by just not personalising it anymore and just saying, this is the type of content I want to advertise on, here's my advert, just put it out on all of them. It's not going to be as targeted or effective for those advertisers, but to be fair, it's not going to be any less effective than advertising on TV is at the moment. So it's not completely doom and gloom. There still will be the possibility of adverts on children's content. But the new changes don't stop there. So in addition to not collecting the data and not displaying the adverts, they're also, and this is kind of hidden in the small print here somewhere, so that's the bit where it says about no longer serving personalised ads, but they're also going to be removing features from content aimed at children. And again, they're removing the features that children shouldn't be having access to anyway. Things like being able to comment on videos, that's not going to be available on kids' videos. Being able to have notifications turned on, that's going to be going away for this kids' content. And it is all kind of reconfirming rules that were always there. If you're under 13, you can't have a YouTube account, so you can't comment, you can't subscribe, you can't put notifications on. So this stuff has always been there, but it's never been enforced before. And I guess they had two options to, as part of the enforcement of this. Either they could say to everyone who's got a YouTube account, send us your driving license or your passport or your birth certificate so we can verify your age. And can you imagine the outcry from all YouTube users if they did that? Or they could do option B, which is put it onto the creators and cause a slightly smaller riot amongst creators, where there are some creators who it's going to cause serious issues for. As part of this as well, they're also making improvements to YouTube Kids. I'm not entirely sure what those improvements are, but that is announced as part of the main thing. And then this bit is particularly interesting, that they're investing in family creators. So they're giving us 4 months to make the changes. I say us. I'm going to get on in a little while to how I don't think this is actually going to affect our channel at all. But they have set a fund, a $100 million fund, to be spent over the course of 3 years to create content for children. So effectively the YouTube Originals, YouTube Red kind of stuff that's been there in the past, but they've set aside a new pool of money for content for kids, because obviously one of the knock-on effects of these changes is that there's going to be less content created for kids, because a lot of people who are creating content for children at the moment are going to see their income drop to a point where they might have to stop creating that content. So to try and fill that gap, YouTube are going to fund creating some content to act as a replacement for some of that. Whether that will be with the creators who are missing out is obviously at the discretion of YouTube. Now, I've already mentioned one of the big misconceptions that people have, which is the bit about the advertising. The other thing that everybody panicked about immediately, including me, I fired an email off to YouTube. I'll show you the reply to that in a second. But I think we all panicked a little bit, and before reading through everything and fully understanding it, took this as an extension of the thing from earlier in the year where they removed the comments from any content that had children in it, and assumed this was going to be an extension of that. And if a video is about a child or features children in it, family vlogging for example, then that falls under this umbrella. It's going to be demonetized. There's going to be no comments. There's going to be no notifications. And all of the family vloggers panicked, and all of the kids unboxing channels panicked. And actually, I'm not entirely sure the panic was justified, at least for the family vloggers. The kids unboxing stuff, they probably did need to panic. But I'm going to show you this email quickly. So if we go back here and have a look at my little email, I'm just making sure I don't have any secret personalised information on here. I don't think I do. So I sent an email to YouTube, obviously saying, what's this? Do I need to worry? And just asking for further explanation. And a lot of this is copied and pasted from the original blog post. It does emphasize the key points, and I've seen these key points emphasized in a couple of places now. I also got a tweet back from YouTube on Twitter, which pretty much said the same thing. They've obviously been given a party line to put out there, but it is reassuring me as a creator of family content. I'm going to read most of this. So, hi Kevin, thanks for reaching out. I understand that you're concerned about your family channel in connection with kids content on YouTube Main. Already calling it YouTube Main as opposed to YouTube Kids. Let me explain how this works. And this is the key stuff. If your channel contains made for kids content, then you will be impacted. As a creator, you'll be required to self-designate videos as made for kids where appropriate. In the coming months, you'll see an option in Creator Studio to allow you to designate new and existing content as made for kids or not made for kids. When you inform us that your video is made for kids, YouTube will make a variety of changes to the watch experience, advertising and data processing associated with that content to ensure that the treatment of this content is in compliance with the Child Online Privacy Protection Act, the COPPA thing from before. If your content is not made for kids, you do not need to take action. Ultimately, you know your audience best and we'll rely on you to designate your videos as made for kids. You need to consider your applicable legal obligations when evaluating your content, maybe whether your content is made for kids, including how the age of a child is defined in your country. Consult legal counsel if you have additional questions. And this stuff's really important. Kids content can be considered videos that have an emphasis on children or children's characters, popular children's programming or animated characters, play acting or stories using children's toys, child protagonists engaging in common natural play patterns such as play acting and or imaginative play, popular children's songs, stories or poems. Hope this helps. Let me know if you have any additional questions. Have a great day. Now, I think this stuff is super important because our content on this channel is not made for kids. In fact, if you have a look on our dashboard, I've got a screenshot somewhere. One moment. In fact, forget screenshots. We're getting stuck straight into the dashboard. So this is our current audience broken down by viewer age. This is based on the last 28 days. We can do it over whatever period, but it's all fairly representative. We have the same bunch of people watching all the time. So looking at our channel, now I know you take this with a little bit of a pinch of salt because obviously anyone under 13 isn't recorded on here, so has either lied about their age or is watching on their parents' account. So it's not going to be completely accurate, but I think the fact that we're not all in this category does tell a significant chunk of the story. So in the last 28 days, 13% of our viewers have been under 17, nearly 40% between 18 and 24, another 20% between 25 and 34, another 13% between 35 and 44, and then the rest 45 or older. That clearly tells me that our content isn't made for kids and it's not kids that are watching. If we had like 70% in this category, then maybe that would be a little bit different. But I think that is fairly demonstrative that our content is obviously not made for kids. And also looking at some of these definitions from YouTube as well. Videos that have an emphasis on children or children's characters. Our videos don't have an emphasis on children as per YouTube's own definition of what a child is, which I know they've said this little bit about you need to look at how the age of a child is defined in your country. That might be an iffy area, but if once someone is 13, they can open a YouTube account in their own right and they're not considered a child. They go into that criteria. Everyone on our channel is 13 or over. Amy's 13, Andy's 15, Lucy's 17. So we don't have videos that are about children or focus on children's characters. We don't have popular children's programming or animations on our channel. We don't do any kind of play acting or stories or really touch children's toys. These are adults' toys. I bought these as an adult. We don't have child protagonists at all. There's no children on the channel. And we don't do songs, poems, stories, children's or otherwise. So as far as all of that definition of what is involved goes, I think we're in the clear. I think we're all right. And I think that's the kind of process you need to go through for your channel as well. Do you hit any of those criteria? If you do, reach out to YouTube. I have a partner manager, but they took longer to reply than the actual help button on the YouTube dashboard. So you can just literally click help and get a reply from someone like Liz, who wished me a great day. And she got back to me within like 3 hours. So if you have any queries specific to your channel, by all means, contact YouTube support. And the bottom line is there's always a little bit of iffiness and a little bit of risk with stuff like this, but First port of call, we're going to be designating our own videos as for kids or for adults. I'll be submitting all mine as for adults because they are. These are videos aimed at other parents. And I know there are children who watch, but that's not who we're making the videos for. I'm making videos for people like me, adults, and it's about the life of an adult, me. And then there's my kids are obviously a part of that, but I'm not making videos for kids. You just have to look at some of the videos I've made to see that although we're family friendly, there is a significant difference between family friendly and for children that a lot of people seem to be panicking about. I see them as two different things. I think YouTube see them as two different things. We're family friendly, but we're definitely not for kids. We're making adult content, but it's just suitable for all to watch. It's PG content, if you like, but it's not you content. It's not aimed at kids. I've even seen some reactions along the lines of, well, I get demonetized if I swear in my videos, but now I'm going to get demonetized for being family friendly. What do I do? Do I swear? Do I not swear? I don't see that this is anything to do with that. I think it's a completely different thing. This is very much about child protection, the child protection regulations. And I welcome this as changes. The one area that worries me a little bit is although we're designating content ourselves as child friend, as for children or not for children, there is the whole machine learning element of it, whereby YouTube will sometimes, similar to the demonetization thing at the moment, which is sometimes right, sometimes wrong, but does have a human appeals process. I can see some of our videos sometimes getting caught up in this video appears to be for children, and then I hit appeal, and then a person looks at it and goes, yeah, okay, fair enough, it's obviously not for children, and then remonetizes it. And we might have an issue with that for a little while, but we had an issue with the old style demonetization on this channel for a little while, and the issue soon went away once they learn. I think part of the good part about machine learning is it does learn, and it did eventually learn that every appeal we put in got overturned. Our content is fine. We weren't swearing. We weren't unsuitable for advertisers, and the machine learned that even if we threw up a few flags, by and large, they weren't flags that you needed to worry about, and our content would still be fine. I'd like to think this system will work along the same basis, so it might be a tricky time. It's positioned nicely in January, because January is a rubbish time for ad revenue anyway, but we're all still sitting on fat wallets off the back of November and December, which are very good months for ad revenue. So we've got the chance to build up a little bit of a buffer. I would suggest to all creators, you go into January and February expecting your income to drop a little bit, but in the hope that if you are hand on heart making content that is not aimed at children, that it should average itself out and you should be fine. And that's my view on it at the moment. I was worried initially, but now I've done lots of reading and talked to lots of people. I'm not worried anymore, and hopefully none of you need to be worried either. This channel certainly isn't going anywhere. I did put a tweet out earlier in the week saying if it looks like family friendly is going to get caught up in all this, I'll just change the name of the channel back to Kevin Chapman. I still might do that if it looks like family is getting caught up with children's stuff unintentionally, because reading everything that's out there, it seems very clear this isn't about family friendly content. This isn't about family vloggers. This is very much about protecting children from having their data collected, and it's because they've had a massive fine and been told they were breaking the law, and now they're fixing it. So I think it's a very separate issue to that one earlier in the year. So hopefully we'll be fine. Hopefully all you other family vloggers will be fine. If you are making content aimed directly at children, like animations or unboxings, things like that, you've got 4 months to try and educate your audience or the parents of your audience about why they need to be supporting you with Patreon or something like that, or finding another platform. I admit it's not ideal at all, but the alternative's not ideal either. So it was always an iffy area because of the regulations that weren't really being followed. So I think I have to take my YouTuber hat off and put my parent hat on and say I'm actually quite glad that these changes are coming in, even though my kids are too old to even be affected by it anymore. But I don't want children being able to go where they want on the internet, watch whatever they want and have their data tracked and then have stuff targeted, stuff like that. No, we don't need that. So I think it's changes that had to be made, and hopefully not too many people are massively adversely affected by it, apart from the ones who deserve to be. I'm going to get loads of thumbs downs for that, aren't I? But that's my thoughts on it. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. We'll be back to normal vlogging tomorrow. And if there's any major changes to this as the weeks and months develop, as we go through this 4-month countdown to, I mean, it doesn't have a snazzy name yet. I'm sure it will get one, probably with Apocalypse or Geddon in there somewhere, because that's usually how the internet works. But I might do an update video if things change, if I find out more information, if I get different advice. But at the moment, I think the message I'm putting out there is business as usual. Let's not panic. We should all be good. If you've enjoyed that, or if that's helped you out, please make sure you leave a nice big thumbs up on there for us. Subscribe to the channel for the occasional video like this, but usually family daily vlogs. And thank you very much for watching.